Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm checking out the Floureon QX80 from Gearbest.com. Now I know what you might be thinking, Andy, you've already reviewed the QX80, and I have. However, this is the Gearbest version, and that's why it's called Floureon. And it does come slightly differently than the first version that I reviewed. This one comes already built, and that is something that I was disappointed with the first one that I reviewed, because you had to build it up, and I did a video on how to do that. I'll link it in the below. This one already built. Why is that a good thing? Well, one thing that I found when I was building this thing is that this frame didn't go together very well. You have to file down the edges of the carbon to get it all to slot together, and I didn't find that very easy to do. So this one comes with exactly the same package, except it's already built. However, it does not come with a receiver, and I think this is its biggest downfall. If you aren't into building stuff, then you probably aren't into soldering a receiver to it either. However, I had one of these spare D8 receivers lying around, so I soldered it to it. And if you want to know how to do that, it's also in the build video of the QX80, so check that down below if you've bought the Floureon version. I think I would recommend that you do, because it is less of a hassle to put together. You just have to solder this receiver, and as soon as these started coming out, I went and bought a load of these receivers so I could add them to my own builds. So yeah, you get the same package, you get 2 of these batteries, a spare set of propellers, and everything is built. So yeah, it's a really nice package. I'll link it in the below if you want to get the Floureon version. So how can I make this video more interesting? Well, of course, I'm going to race it with this guy. This is the QX90. Now, a lot of people have been asking, should I get the 80? Should I get the 90? And honestly, you won't go wrong with either of them. I slightly favor this one more because I think it's better balanced, and I tend to find that it flies a little bit better, but that could just be my tune of the two. So before I race these together, I just want to say I think both of them are great. So just like before when I did the brushed versus brushless race, I'm gonna race these two around my little FPV track outside and see which one is better. Now of course I'm going to be the pilot for both of them, and this is just for fun. I'm sure that if I made a mistake with this one or this one, either could have won, but I just wanted to do this for a little bit of fun. So let's go and do that and see which one wins. As the lights go down, both quadcopters are ready for a takeoff. We have a green light, and both of them storm towards the bin. It looks like a pretty even start, and as we go over the hill, it looks like the QX80 has a little bit more momentum and is ahead around the lamppost. And we can see in the split screen there, the QX80 has managed to open up a gap already, with the QX90 lagging behind. Now both of these quadcopters have got their stock propellers on to make it fair. As we go over the hill and around the lamppost, the QX80 has opened even more of a gap, but it looks like it's slowing down through the trees there, but so is the QX90, so the QX80 manages to stay ahead and is opening up a really big gap now, as the QX80 is already going over the hill. And in this split screen shot, you will see the huge gap that the QX80 has managed to open up. The QX80 is just going through the tree, and the QX90 following it. And as we go through the slalom and around the bin, the QX90 has caught up, and over the hill it's pretty much neck and neck, but the QX80 has maintained its momentum and is still ahead. We go to the split screen there, you can see that the gap has closed between the two, and as we head towards the bin, it's pretty much neck and neck again, but the QX80 does seem to have the advantage. Over the hill and around the lamppost again, the QX80 has opened up the gap a little bit more, and the QX90 has gone slow through the trees, and it is really lagging behind now. As we go around the bin again, the QX90 lagging behind, and the QX80 looking a little bit more composed. As we go to the split screen there, we have that large gap again, and it looks like the QX80 is taking this. We are around the bin with the QX80, and the QX90 only just going round now. It's going to have to do a lot of work to catch up now. the QX80 is just going through the trees and the QX90 only just through the lamppost, and it doesn't look like it's able to close the gap. As we head towards the bin, the QX80 is ahead again, but the QX90 just whips around that bin and is catching up. As we go around the lamppost, it seems that it has gained some momentum, and through the trees it's pretty much neck and neck. Look at that. Somehow the QX90 has managed to catch up, and around the bin the QX90 is ahead. How did that happen? And over the hill the QX90 is ahead again. It looks like consistency is the key here, and flying through the trees the QX90 has clinched it and overtaken the QX80. And around the bin now it looks like the QX90 is opening the gap as we go over the hill and round the lamppost there. Oh, but the QX90 has hit the ground and it's going to lose some time there. So we go through the trees, it's pretty much neck and neck. And it looks like the QX90 just clinched it there.
So in the end, it was the QX90 that actually won the race, despite the QX80 having the upper hand for the majority of the race. Now, like I say, I am doing this just for fun, and the problem was probably the pilot rather than these two quadcopters because they are very similar. The only thing that I noticed was that the QX90 seemed a little bit smoother around the corners. This one definitely had the speed, but when it came to a corner, it seemed to stall out of the turn almost, and this one was smoother. Now, both of these quadcopters have got the same PID settings on them, and some might say, well, that's your problem because there's two different quadcopters there, different sizes, different propellers, different weights, and maybe that is the case. So I'll just give you my opinion on the pros and cons of owning these two. I really like the QX90's frame. It is really minimalistic and it's really strong as well. It does not vibrate. However, I don't like the standoffs that they provide underneath. They are going to break pretty quickly, so I have removed those. Another thing that I don't like about the 90 is the propellers. They are terrible. They are the old H107 AL propellers, and you can see there that there's quite a gap between the bottom of the motor and the bottom of the propeller. You want to get some Hubsan H107D props. They fit flush there and you won't get any vibrations with it. If you saw the race, this one had vibrations on it and this one didn't. Now, the QX80 does have a stronger frame. In fact, the motors are protected there. There's wires that go underneath there, and quite often with these, you can see they're left bare and they can snap off. So I do like that about the QX80. However, the frame seems a little bit heavier and bulky, and I think I just prefer X frames these days. If you look at anybody flying mini quads, they go for X frames rather than H frames. And I think that is why this one was a bit unstable around the corners. It's a characteristic of a H frame. Now, I do think I prefer the camera quality of the QX90. Now, I thought that they both had the same camera, but they don't. They are slightly different. However, I do like the semi-rigid antenna on the QX80 there, as opposed to this one, which is also semi-rigid as well, but this one looks a little bit stronger to me. And the props on the QX80 are definitely a better quality than on the QX90. One thing that I don't like about the QX80 though is there's no easy way to add the battery that is provided with it. See here, I have added a rubber band that is provided in the kit, and also sort of piggybacked the band for the camera there, whereas this one you can just take a band around the middle and that is a much nicer fit for a battery. Now, I know some people don't like to have the motors or propellers in view of the camera while they're flying, and if you are one of those people, then definitely get the QX80 over the QX90, because you can see there the propellers go completely in shot. And now I really like this because it makes you feel like you're sat right on top of the quadcopter and it gives you a nice perspective. However, if you don't like that sort of thing, then the QX80's propellers just appear in the top corner and you do get a better view out of the front of this. So there you go, that is my race between the QX80 and the QX90. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.